From a time long ago where licensed games were basically a license to print money by slapping a skin of something you knew onto a video game made sure you bought it. Oh, we all bought it. We all bought the lie. The ugly, ugly lie. Our favourite 80s action heroes, our Saturday morning cartoons, our legendary heroes, even our pop stars, all had the video game treatment. The question that I have been attempting to answer: are any of these games any good? Join me as we take a trip back to yesteryear, as we're now delving into the times where licensed gaming didn't necessarily mean good gaming. Let's take a look at the Sega Master System and ask ourselves about some of these games based on our favourite movies. Hi guys, it's Jared the Blind Gamer, and today we are doing another episode of Adaptation, and as you might have guessed, we are going through Sega Master System games based on movies. Let's take a look and find out what was the good, the bad, and the goddamn bloody ugly. So what's that TikTok going round? Was it, so I dance with my hands like Jesus said. Okay, I've not watched the Wednesday TV show on Netflix just yet, but I might do just to find out what the hell all that TikTok video is all about. Anyway, this is the Addams Family on Sega Master System. You play as Gomez Addams, and you're basically tasked with rescuing the rest of your family. And quite frankly, this game is abysmal. It controls like ass. It's one of those games where like the controls are just non-responsive, quite rubbery. It's uninteresting and boring. Let's not spend much more time with it. It's not worth your time or your effort. Swiftly moving on. Aliens 3. Now this is a very good adaptation of the Sega Mega Drive game. You play as Ripley, and you basically tasked with freeing the prisoners and destroying aliens before the time runs out. And this is very, very similar. There's a selection of weapons that Ripley can use, and if your time runs out and you are unsuccessful, you are subject to the brutal destruction of the prisoners that you failed to rescue. I really enjoyed my time with this. Apart from the slight downgrading graphics, it's just as fun as its Sega Mega Drive, or for you folks in the States, Sega Genesis counterpart. If you get a chance to play a bit of Aliens 3 on the Sega Master System, I would highly recommend it. Back to the Future 2 and 3. Right, I am grouping these in together. Maybe it's the fact I am shit at retro games, I don't know. First off, the good. Back to the Future 2. You're on a hoverboard. So, Okay, it's playing out one of the scenes from the movies. I like the fact that one of the enemies you have to dodge is Biff with a walking stick. But let's be perfectly honest, when you've got games like TMNT or Battletoads that do skateboarding type levels really well, there is no excuse for this. There is no excuse for this. I couldn't get past this level. Again, perhaps it's my own ineptitude, but quite frankly, it controlled that badly and it was that sluggish that I didn't want to get past the level. Same for Back to the Future 3, you start off on a horse, and I think it's a recreating the scene where you're chasing Clara. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I seem to be getting hit by birds and things that... No, this is awful. Cheap cashing. Avoid these guys like the plague. The only good Back to the Future game I've experienced so far is the role-playing game that came out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era, which was then ported to the PS4 and Xbox One. That's a Back to the Future game I can get behind. This, absolutely not. Batman Returns. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, you've got two routes that you go through with the streets of Gotham. You've got your grappling hook. Batman's got his batarang, of which you can use to dispatch enemies. And quite frankly, with games such as Batman on the original NES coming out, there's no excuse for this. Batman controls very sluggishly. I didn't enjoy the controls. The graphics are okay, but compared to other Batman games, even Batman and Robin on the Sega Game Gear, this seems to be missing something. The platforming is okay, the combat is okay, but there are much better Batman games than this. Obviously some of them came out after this one, but there are better Batman games like the one on the NES that came out before it as well. Bram Stoker's Dracula. This was quite an enjoyable game. It's very Castlevania-esque. It's a side-scrolling action platformer. You basically have short attacks. Now, when I seen the attack, I was like, oh no, one of these games where like I have a sword the size of a pin and I've got to like attack enemies from like a mile away. But it actually works out really, really well. It's got like a night and day cycle, so you basically get to the end of the first part of the level, it flips to night, and you have to destroy enemies, and you find yourself going through the ground into like an area below ground, so to speak. I don't know how much it follows the film. I don't really think it does kind of follow the film. I know the film came out around the same time as this game's release, but I'm not sure whether the game is based on the film, the book, or if it's just basically a platformer game which has had a Bram Stoker's Dracula label just sort of stuck on it. But as gameplay goes, this is actually quite good. I was kind of getting into this. I was exploring it a little bit. I've only played a short snippet of the game just to, get a sense of what it's like for this episode, but I quite enjoyed it. And it definitely be a game that I'm going to go back to and take a closer look at. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has interacted with the channel so far. The views that I've gotten on some of these videos have been absolutely overwhelming. I am now uploading every Wednesday and Sunday, so I will have new videos around 8 PM every Wednesday or Sunday. I'm going to try and stick to 8 PM. It might be slightly before or slightly after. Every Wednesday and a Sunday at 8 PM I'm going to be putting new videos out for you guys to watch. Again, if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing and dropping a like on this video. I'd like to reach 100 subscribers by the end of January. You guys can help me do that if you really enjoy this content. Thank you so much. James Bond: The Duel. Now this is an action platformer. I didn't know of many James Bond games that came out before GoldenEye, to be honest with you. This is okay. It's not the best platformer in the world, but I would probably say it's a serviceable platformer, and if you're a fan of the James Bond franchise, then I would definitely give this a go. You're basically fighting your way past different levels, shooting bad guys, and there's a different selection of weapons and things you can choose from. It's not exactly punishing. Again, this is a game that I've only checked out for a small amount of time just to have a look at this video, and I'm quite intrigued. This is definitely a game that I would go back and revisit. Jurassic Park. Now, the Jurassic Park games on different formats were quite interesting because no matter what format you chose, you had a different game, and the same is true with Jurassic Park on the Master System. You have a selection of locations that you have to get to, and you have stages that you basically have to follow the car and take out the dinosaurs to make sure the car reaches the destinations. Now, the amount of times I've said about driving stages and how driving stages have taken away from the action stages of different games, the Batman games or the Extreme Ghostbusters games on the Game Boy Advance, for example. This is the other way around. The action stages are okay. The enemy combat is not the best. The hit detection is not the best. However, I applaud them for trying different and new things, of trying to make the levels distinctive and different from each other. And it's one of those games where it's good in sort of theory, but not so much in execution. But it's not an awful game either. The protect the car segments are actually really, really fun. I really enjoyed them. And the action parts of the game, they're okay. It's a game I would kind of go back and revisit. It is quite reminiscent of the Mega Drive version or the Genesis version of the game, but not point by point recreation. I like the fact that it's got its own version then of Jurassic Park. I think that's really, really cool. Definitely check this one out, guys. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Now, I believe this is very similar to the Mega Drive or Genesis version of Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. You basically play as Michael Jackson and you have to dance around different stages, stylishly kicking and punching bad guys until they disappear off the screen, and rescuing hostages which look like little babies in boxer shorts. They do, look. That's a baby in boxer shorts. As games go, it plays alright. It's a serviceable platformer. If you're a fan of Moonwalker and you want to play as Michael Jackson, it's probably as good as its Mega Drive counterpart. Is it a game I probably want to go back to? Probably not. Rocky. Now, this game gets a lot of mixed reviews, and I will be honest with you, my review of this game is going to be incredibly biased, because I have really fond childhood memories of this game. I loved playing as Rocky, going up against Apollo Creed, Clubber Lang, and trying to beat Ivan Drago and failing miserably. I loved the little mini games in between each stage. I know it was basically button bashing and there's not a great deal of like skill progression, etc. But I loved the graphics. I loved how each sprite looked like what they respectively meant to look like. There's just something about this game that just gives me a really warm feeling inside. That it must have been like one of those games that you play when you're going through difficult times as a kid. And I remember playing this game with my brother. I remember playing this game at my uncle's house. And it's just something I fondly remember. I've got fond memories of watching Rocky with my dad when I was younger. And it's just something about this game that it's one of them games that, like, it might not be the best game in the world, but like for you growing up, it's always like that one game that you kind of fondly remember, and it's never as good as you remember it to be when you go back, but it will still garner that sort of feeling inside yourself where you're like, I remember this, and you still have fun because it brings back those sort of childhood memories. I really enjoyed Rocky on the Master System, and I'm glad it's a game that I can go back to and revisit today. Star Wars. Well, this is basically a very similar version of Star Wars as you saw on the NES. However, it looks a damn sight better. The Master System really did get its graphics nailed, and it really could pull off just much more colourful environments and sprites and levels than its 8-bit counterpart, though the NES was by far the more popular system. When you had two games side by side, there was a genuine difference just how much more vibrant a Master System version of a game was. And it's one of them, they create a platform game loosely surrounding the plot of the film. Like, remember the part in Star Wars where Luke Skywalker goes into a cave and he gets attacked by droplets of acid? Perhaps that'll be in the special edition. They're bound to bring out another one soon. Come on. The opening stage, you basically get there's two modes of play. There's the driving part, where you're going around on a land speeder. You have to avoid, guns that are shooting you and different things. And you're then exploring caves and making your way to Mos Eisley Cantina. Once you get to Mos Eisley Cantina, you have to fight through a heap of stormtroopers and different other enemies until you find the Millennium Falcon, and then you're on the Millennium Falcon going through the asteroid field. I'll have to get more practice, and I could actually at one point make it through the asteroid field. For some reason in this playthrough I did absolutely abysmal of it. I like the fact that there's different modes of play, and it really does try and capture the ethos of the Star Wars movies. I would say this game is worth checking out for nostalgia's sake. Is it the best Star Wars game out there? No. Is it a fairly decent 8-bit adaptation of the film? It'll do. Terminator 2, the arcade game. Most of the games I have reviewed today, I would say, are mediocre at best. This game is a very faithful adaptation of the Terminator 2 arcade game. The Terminator 2 arcade game is non-rail shooter, mostly set in during the war segments. So, during the times that the Terminator is taken over. And the arcade game of Terminator was fantastic. I had a brilliant port of it on the Amiga, where you could use the mouse as your gun to shoot down the enemies. This was fantastic. As a port, it's easy enough to move your cursor over the enemies and shoot them. There's different power-ups and things that you can get. Though the graphics are nowhere near as good as the Amiga counterpart or the arcade counterpart, this is definitely a really, really, really good port. And I had just as much fun with this as I did with the actual arcade game, and as I did with the Amiga arcade game. If I had this on a Master System back in the day as a way of playing the Terminator 2. If I actually owned this back in the day when I was a kid, I'd been just as happy as I was with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade conversion on the NES. This is fantastic. It captures the arcade mayhem brilliantly, and you very much feel like you are fighting in the Terminator war, and it is fantastic. It is. I would say this is probably one of the best adaptations of a movie I have seen on 8-bit system. I would give it that much of a glowing review. It is really, really good. Well worth checking out, guys. So thanks again, guys, for joining me. That was Master System games based on movies. I haven't covered them all. Going to shake things up next time. So keep an eye out for Adaptation episode 7. Thank you again, guys, for your help and support in getting this channel out there, watching the videos, for all your feedback, and just for helping this humble Welshman express his love of creativity, gaming, and just connecting with you guys. It's been such a privilege to see how many of you have enjoyed these videos, and I am so grateful for everyone who has contributed to this channel by subscribing, by liking the videos, by commenting. You know, it's such an honour to create something that people seem to be enjoying watching, and I'm so grateful for that. So thank you ever so much. I'll see you soon for another video. Take care.